In this lesson, we're going to be taking a look at how to order fractions and mixed numbers using benchmarks. Now, benchmarks are kind of like guideposts. We use them to determine where to place our fractions and mixed numbers. And in this example, on the number line, we have three benchmarks: the number 0, the number 1, and the number 2. The first number that we need to place is 1 and 5 over 8. Now, using benchmarks, we can sort of rewrite them to meet our needs. Because this is a mixed number that's out of 8, let's determine how we would show a fraction out of 8 for 0, 1, and 2. So for the number 0, how many pieces of 8 would you have? Well, logically 0 is nothing, so that would be 0 pieces of 8. What about 1? Well, we've talked about in class how every time the numerator and the denominator, the top number and the bottom number of a fraction, are the same, regardless of the number, if they're the same, it will always equal 1. So if we're trying to do a fraction out of 8, that means 1 would be 8 out of 8. Well, what would be 2? Well, 2 would just be double of what 1 is. So if we have 8 pieces of 8 for 1, then for 2 we have 16 pieces of 8. Now let's go back and take a look at our starting mixed number. We've got 1 and 5 over 8. We know here that we have one whole already, which means that we cannot place this mixed number between 0 and 1. It has to be somewhere between 1 and 2. So we have 8 out of 8, 16 out of 8. Perhaps we can convert this mixed number into an improper fraction and see if that will help us. Let's do that. Multiply and add. So 1 times 8 is 8, plus 5 is 13. 13 out of 8. So I have 0 out of 8, 8 out of 8, 16 out of 8. Logically then, where would 13 out of 8 fit in? Well, 13 out of 8 would fit in approximately in this portion of the number line right here. So we can say that 1 and 5 over 8 approximately fits in right here. Now, using benchmarks, we're never going to know exactly where it is. It's kind of a common sense method. We're just trying to place them based on the benchmarks, based on where we think the mixed number would be according to the benchmarks we have on the number line. Let's take a look at the next fraction. We've got 1 over 8. Now, I've already marked 0 out of 8 and 8 out of 8 and 16 out of 8 on the number line. So based on these benchmarks that I've placed here, where would we place 1 out of 8? Well, 1 out of 8 would be a lot closer to 0 out of 8 than it would be to 8 out of 8, because we've got 1 piece of 8. That would be closer to 0 pieces of 8 than to 8 pieces of 8. So let's place it. 1 out of 8 would approximately go right here, close to the 0. Alright, the next one we have is 1 out of 4. So let's get rid of the benchmarks that we had originally put in that were out of 8. And we need to put in a benchmark now that's out of 4. Okay, so again, common sense, 0 pieces of 4 would be 0. Top and the bottom have to be the same number, so 4 out of 4 would be 1. And what would be double that? 8 pieces of 4. Now, looking at our benchmarks again, where would 1 out of 4 fit in? Well, if we were to divide this number line into quarters, you would have a tick approximately here, here, and here, and here, here, and here. Well, where would 1 out of 4 fit? 1 out of 4 would fit right on the first tick. Again, closer to 0 out of 4 than 4 out of 4. So let's place it now. 1 out of 4, approximately here. The last digit we have, the last fraction, is 7 out of 8. So let's bring our benchmarks of a denominator of 8 back into play. Of course, we'd have 0 out of 8 again, 8 out of 8, and 16 out of 8. Now, where would 7 out of 8 fit? Well, we have 0 out of 8 on the far left, 8 out of 8 in the middle. We know that we don't have more than 8 out of 8, so we have to be between 0 and 1. 7 out of 8 is quite close to 8 out of 8, so we need to place it in a place that shows that, right about here. Now we've placed these on the number line. We can see that, to the best of our knowledge anyway, using benchmarks, they've been placed correctly. The correct order, smallest to biggest, would be 1 out of 8, followed by 1 out of 4, followed by 7 out of 8, followed by 1 and 5 out of 8. This is how to use benchmarks to order fractions and mixed numbers. If you have any questions, please ask Mr. Herpel.